The Māori Party wants all Māori to be allowed to go to university without having any educational qualifications, it would seem. Māori Affairs Minister Pita Sharples believes Māori are disadvantaged when it comes to gaining qualifications, and universities need to rise to this challenge. Not everyone is convinced that this is the right path. Well, joining me now is Dr Pita Sharples and AUT Senior Lecturer Ella Henry. Good morning to you both.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
I'll start with you, Mr Sharples. Why do you think, let's be clear first, do you think universities should have an open door policy for all Māori students?
Yes, I'm positing the idea because at the moment secondary schools are failing Māori, with boys coming out of this. 50% Māori boys come out of there with no NCEA. Now, since 1960, the Hun report, they've been trying to close the gaps. It hasn't worked. So what I'm saying is let's shift that over to the university, like the Wānanga, and have a student learning centre which brings them up to the standard. So it's not about lowering any standards. They still have to meet the standards in order to qualify.
Aren't you in a way, though, just setting them up for potential failure if they haven't gained educational qualifications in high school, they go to university, they could just fail again?
No, they move into a student learning centre for the first year and gain the skills of university learning. That is like how to study, how to use the library, the skills as well as the culture of study at a university, and then they begin their degree like anybody else with the necessary qualification.
I agree that the statistics for the high school are shocking, but why would anybody then bother to get good grades in high school at all if they were going to automatically be allowed into any course or degree they wanted?
Oh, it's about evening things out a bit, because many Māori are marginalised in the fifth form by being given the options that don't lead to university entrance. And that's got to be looked at. I mean, there's a whole study on this. A Māori PhD in Auckland has shown this, that in fact whānau and students don't know the implications of not taking maths or not doing this in the fifth form, and immediately they're ruled out of entry to university.
All right, Ella Henry, if I can come to you, what do you think? Do you think this will work?
Well, I applaud Peter's thinking and his philosophy. I'm concerned as a university lecturer that we undermine the mana of those students who work so desperately hard for the 4 and 5 years they're at college to get into university by saying, well, don't worry about that in the future. And also as a university teacher, I know how much pastoral care we do provide to our Māori students to get them up to scratch. So I'm concerned that we're burdening more Māori with a student loan debt and preparing them for failure, when in fact maybe what we need to be doing is looking at alternative learning options, like, Pete, perhaps we could bring back the trade training scheme, because not everybody really needs a university qualification for the career or trade they want.
Peter, your thoughts on that?
Oh, I can't disagree with any of that, but I just want to say that you're not penalising anybody else who have worked hard at secondary school. What you're doing is putting in another year where they learn the culture and get up to scratch and begin their degree the following year. So it would be like a bridge for the failure of secondary schools to prepare Māori students for university.
But that's the real problem, isn't it? Secondary schools. Shouldn't you be doing something focused towards secondary schools rather than saying to the universities the secondary schools are failing, so you have to fix it?
Yes, exactly. And we've been saying that, mai rāno, forever and ever, and nothing has changed. The outputs are still bad. In 1960, the Hun report showed how big the gaps were. Year 2000, the Ministry of Education, Te Puni Kōkiri, both put out reports saying, hello, the gaps are still here. So this is the point. Unless we do something at secondary school, let's shift it up a rung. And we've done that at the Wānanga. And the Wānanga has a special program preparing people for the heavy stuff later on.
Could this work, Ella? I mean, the Wānanga does have an established program of setting people up a stage, and Peter's right, doesn't he? We have to do something about this.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I think I'm concerned, though, at the moment that tech is putting quota limits on us, so we may not even be allowed to enrol the students in the second semester that have earned university entrance. So there are some technical issues that have to be dealt with. But I think overworking university Māori teachers is not necessarily going to help those Māori students that come in to university anyway. Really, if the problem is high school, and I've got students who've been through New Zealand high schools, fix it up there and get high schools and college and universities working more closely around tailoring those transition programs.
And Peter, I'm going to have to play devil's advocate here a little bit, because one of the arguments that, well, first off, people are going to say this is racism, that every race and culture in the entire country must work hard to get into university except Māori. And the second thing people will say is that if some Māori students are achieving, then surely the potential is there for all Māori students to achieve.
Oh, that's easy to say things like that. But nobody is being penalised, and it is a matter of equality, because at the Student Learning Centre within the university, they do not do Anthropology 101 or anything like that. They prepare themselves in the schools to enroll in Anthropology 101 when they have the necessary skills which they will get there, because they're not getting them in the secondary schools. So really, it's not penalising anybody, it's not giving favouritism to anybody, it's filling a gap, a failure gap, which the secondary schools are not fulfilling.
So filling a failure gap for what the secondary schools aren't achieving, I think your earpiece was just losing their faith. What can universities and techs do differently?
There are a small group of Māori working in all of the universities and polytechs in the country, and we work 150%, not just in the student learning centres, but in the faculties, to give Māori students that additional pastoral and academic support. And I think that's reflected in the success rates of our students. I'd like to see what we've got in place being supported sufficiently before we create a deluge, because we'll just work ourselves to death.
And finally, and very briefly, Dr Pita Sharples, do you expect this to happen?
I'm going to keep pushing for it, even if it just signals the need in the secondary school system to get their act into gear. It's not part of the education policy or this government's policy at this time, but I've got to keep that idea in front of people that if we want, equality is equal outputs. Doesn't matter how we get there, let's just get there, and it's got to change.
Excellent. Dr Pita Sharples, thank you very much for joining us on Sunrise this morning. Ella Henry, thank you also for joining us on Sunrise. A pleasure to talk to you both.